Now, from Wish TV, your local news source, this is All Indiana Politics.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome to a special edition of All Indiana Politics on this Sunday. I'm Phil Sanchez. Westfield is one of the fastest growing towns in Indiana, and voters there will pick a new mayor this year. Current Mayor Andy Cook is leaving office after 4 terms. 3 Republicans are running to succeed him. They are Kristen Berkman, Scott Willis, and Jake Gilbert. Our government reporter Gilbert Berquist sat down with each of them over the past few weeks, and we begin with Kristen Berkman.
With us now is Westfield mayoral candidate Kristen Berkman. Kristen, thank you for joining us today.
I'm delighted to be here, Garrett. Thank you for having me.
Why are you running for mayor of Westfield?
I am in the final stages of pursuing a doctorate in leadership and organizational innovation from Marymount University in Washington, D.C. And this has been an incredible journey for me to be learning the latest techniques and strategies in leadership. And that's coupled with my experience on the Plan Commission in Westfield, where I've served for the past 3 years. And I'm seeing that these 2 experiences are coming together and can really provide leadership, background, and experience in where Westfield needs to go next. In addition, I have corporate marketing experience, and this is also going to be a great asset.
Westfield's population grew by nearly 10% just between 2020 and 2021. How do you ensure that that growth doesn't outpace your infrastructure, your roads, your schools, your utilities, that sort of thing?
There are enough housing proposals approved in Westfield to take the population from 50,000 to 80,000. So this is a key component of this mayoral race to address what are we going to do. I will tell you my priority is to make sure we maintain public safety at the levels it's at in Westfield now, and we look at all of our infrastructure and roads. We must make sure the roads are keeping up with population growth, and this is going to take a strategy and a plan by the next mayor to update our thoroughfare plan.
How do you maintain that growth?
I think a bigger issue for us right now is strategically planning how we keep up with the growth, which has been, as you mentioned, very rapid. And in fact, in the last 10 years, we've grown from 30,000 to 50,000. So about a 65% population growth, projecting even more growth. So I think really it's how do we make sure we're collaborating with the schools to make sure that they're keeping up with their teachers, their classroom availability, and then also working very hard with our public safety and our public transportation departments to make sure those areas are keeping up.
You said the next mayor needs to optimize opportunities to increase the commercial tax base and employment opportunities. How do you do that?
My campaign's about having Westfield become data-driven. We need the information to put in these plans and then go out and market our community to companies so they see what an incredible place Westfield is to not only raise a family, but to also bring your business to Westfield.
What's your plan for Grand Park? The city still owes $77 million, and the current administration has decided not to sell it.
I don't want to sell Grand Park. I think this will reopen when the next mayor takes office. And the reason is for many reasons, honestly. One, Grand Park is an economic driver. We can find businesses that complement Grand Park and add to our commercial tax base around the park itself. Secondly, our youth are dependent on Grand Park right now for the fields and the diamonds. The fields and diamonds that were used prior to Grand Park really are no longer viable. And so we have to make sure our youth are taken care of. The taxpayers have paid for Grand Park, and everyone deserves to make sure that our youth have a place to play youth sports.
You brought up the use of Grand Park for youth sports. Is Westfield pinning too much of its economic future on youth sports?
That industry is actually $17 billion. When you Google Grand Park, it's a top 15 youth sports park in the country. So we have an incredible asset in Westfield with Grand Park. I do agree we need to look at other industries, and this goes back to being data-driven. We need to do industrial analysis, environmental analysis, competitive analysis to understand which businesses would work best in Westfield.
What sets you apart from the other candidates in this Republican primary?
That's a great question. 2 or 3 areas that I'd like to focus on today with you, Garrett, is one, I have an undergrad degree in marketing, I have an MBA, and this summer I'll complete a doctorate in leadership and organizational innovation. This is very unique from the other candidates. They do not have this educational background. 2, I have a marketing background, which I find at this crossroads in the city is going to be incredibly important. We need to be able to market our city to companies so that they can come and participate in Westfield. And I think that my experience on the APC, the Plan Commission in Westfield, where I've become a certified master citizen planner, also differentiates me from the other 2 candidates because I've spent the last 3 years studying land uses within our city, and that's going to be incredibly important moving forward. How do we use our land as an asset in our community to make sure we're putting the best uses on the land that helps our citizens and our tax base?
All right, coming up, our coverage of the Westfield Republican mayoral primary continues with Scott Willis. Welcome back to a special edition of All Indiana Politics. We continue our coverage with the second of 3 Westfield Republicans running for mayor, Scott Willis.
Let's welcome in Scott Willis. Scott, thank you for coming in today.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Why are you running for mayor of Westfield?
Well, you know, a couple things that happened in my life that kind of set this up. First off, I retired from the Marine Corps last year, 30 years of service. I also sold one of my 2 businesses 2 years ago. Part of that earnout has kept me with them through the end of this year. But at the end of this year, I'll no longer be serving the Marine Corps. That company will no longer be a responsibility of mine. It just made sense to make a run. I've been intertwined in Westfield now for many years. I'm currently on city council, and I feel like with my background and experience, it would lend itself well to some of the challenges that Westfield's going through right now.
Westfield's population grew by nearly 10% just between 2020 and 2021. How do you ensure that you don't outgrow your infrastructure, like your roads, schools, and utilities?
And that's a real challenge right now in Westfield because with this rapid growth, and 90% of our revenue right now in Westfield comes from residential homes and apartment complexes. So keeping up with that infrastructure has been a challenge. It's going to remain a challenge. And I think the best thing we can do to address that is to diversify and grow our commercial tax base. Because if we're going to continue to rely on the backs of homeowners to pay for all the infrastructure, we're going to continue to lag behind.
Let's stay on that topic for a minute. You talked about trying to expand the commercial tax base. How do you do that, and how do you square that with your other campaign promise about keeping taxes low?
That's a great, well, I think they come hand in hand, quite frankly. You lower taxes, you keep taxes low by having a strong, robust, diverse tax base, and we just don't have that right now. The way we get it done is it starts first by identifying land that fits into Westfield, fits into our strengths as a community, get that land zoned, bring the infrastructure into that development, and then go out and market that to the business community. You're seeing that right now in Carmel and Fishers and Noblesville. Westfield just doesn't have land available right now, and it's not been zoned. Part of the problem with Bashan, how we lost them, was that exact thing. So we need to be more strategic in what we're doing around commercial development.
How do you maintain the growth that Westfield's been seeing?
Maintain the growth? Well, for the next 10 years, it's already built in with all the development that's been approved. And again, as you mentioned, we're going to at least get to 70, maybe even 75, 80,000 people over the next several years. So I think most people in Westfield would like to see us slow that residential side down just a little bit and bring our amenities and infrastructure up to where we're at in a general population. So my focus is going to be purely on commercial development, bringing in good quality businesses that fit our culture here in Westfield, and bring in the amenities, restaurants, and services that can come with that.
You mentioned slowing down the residential growth a little bit. How would you propose doing that?
Well, we're running out of land, quite frankly. I mean, for Westfield to continue to grow in population, we're going to have to start looking at annexation, and that would create a sprawl that I don't think Westfield's ready for yet. We certainly have land inside our comprehensive plan that's been zoned for residential, or at least has been envisioned to be residential, and that I would continue to support to ensure, farmers that can no longer farm that land, it's too expensive, they can't get their tractors on the road, we owe it to them to be able to divest that as long as it fits into our comprehensive plan. So we do have some pockets that will continue to develop over time.
What's your plan for Grand Park? The city still owes $77 million on it, and the current administration has said they're not going to sell.
My plan for Grand Park is two things. First, we got to make the operation more profitable. But two, and more importantly, is we have to bring development in around Grand Park that fits the vision of Grand Park. We're losing a tremendous amount of revenue from food and beverage tax, hotel tax, all the things that you get when visitors come into your community. They're leaving Westfield. They're not staying in Westfield. We don't have enough hotels. We don't have the restaurants, the shops, the destinations that people are looking for when they spend a weekend at a baseball tournament. They're going to Carmel, Kokomo, Fishers. We have got to find a way to develop around the park to capture those dollars and create a destination for our visitors. 5 million visitors every year, and 80% of those are coming from outside central Indiana. We need to find a way to have them spending dollars in Westfield.
Is Westfield pinning too much of its economic future on attracting youth sports?
Certainly that's not my vision. Youth sports will be a piece of our economic engine, but we do need to be diverse in what we do. And I've got a three-pronged strategy to economic development here in Westfield, Grand Park being one of those, but two, capitalizing on our light industrial research and development, some of the things that we've been able to capture already with Bastion, with Abbott Labs, and a few other companies. So we need to, and we've got a lot of land in great places within our city to develop that. So that's the second prong. The third prong is, again, mixed-use development, retail shops that capture the dollars that come in, not only for Grand Park, but for our own residents.
What sets you apart from the other Republican candidates in this primary?
Experience. When you look at our backgrounds, and we're all three very different, I bring 30 years in the Marine Corps. I have led large groups of people, north of 1,500 Marines. I've managed large budgets. I've had budgets north of $100 million. I've started up 2 businesses, so I have the business acumen and experience. I've got the leadership that comes with being an officer in the Marine Corps, and I think that combination gives me a unique skill set that nobody else has. I mean, you got to look at Westfield as a business. We're hiring the next CEO of Westfield, and it's a $90 million plus business. And when you look at the 3 backgrounds, you need to ask yourself, which one of these 3 candidates can step in and run a business like that? And I believe I'm the clear choice.
Coming up, we conclude our coverage of the Westfield Republican mayoral primary with Jake Gilbert. Welcome back to our special edition of the Westfield Republican mayoral primary that concludes with the third and final candidate, Jake Gilbert.
With us now is Jake Gilbert. Jake, thank you for dropping by today.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate the opportunity.
Why are you running for mayor of Westfield?
Well, I love our community and I love our city. I've pretty much devoted my life to as a teacher and a coach and a community servant to helping people reach their full potential and their goals, and I want to do that for our city. I think under my leadership we can really raise the entire trajectory of where our community is heading. What I believe I do best in terms of building team, getting people to work together, casting a strong vision, communication, that's what our city needs most right now. We need someone that can restore the positive culture of Westfield.
Westfield's population grew by nearly 10% just from 2020 to 2021. How do you ensure that you don't outgrow your infrastructure, such as your roads, schools, and utilities?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. I think we have to be very thoughtful about any growth. So growth is a great opportunity for cities, but there's an opportunity cost. When you continue to sprawl, there's the opportunity to exceed the infrastructure that you have, to overcrowd schools, to put tremendous strain on public safety. Those are things that we don't want. So Westfield's a special community, but we can ruin that with a growth that exceeds the services we can provide. So I think we have to be really thoughtful and smart about all of our residential growth and really well planned when it comes to the comprehensive plan and the vision we have for building our city.
How do you maintain that growth?
Again, growth is an opportunity, but I believe we want to maintain quality growth. I think as long as we're clear in the plan for not only our community, but for those who want to invest in our community, developers, businesses, and they understand exactly what we're looking for, exactly where it should go. We're clear on the plan for developing the infrastructure, whether that be widening a road or placing a fire station or making sure our schools are big enough to absorb the students that growth brings. I think maintaining it, but only if it's quality in such a way that we can continue to produce the services that people expect in Westfield.
What's your plan for Grand Park? The city still owes $77 million, and the current administration has decided not to sell it.
Yeah, so from the very beginning, I was the candidate who said, don't sell Grand Park, and I still feel that way. I just feel like we haven't optimized it as an asset. So the community paid for Grand Park, and they love Grand Park. They want to use Grand Park more. We're just scratching the surface on non-sports related revenues. We have opportunities to really gain revenues in terms of sponsorship. I think we're going to start getting a bigger piece of the pie when it comes to Hamilton County tourism dollars. It's just premature to sell it. So I'm open to listening on how the private sector can help us learn to run it better, maybe a partnership, maybe a lease, but I would never want to sell it because once it's gone, it's gone. And our people, they're not ready to give up on it yet either.
Right now, you're employed as a high school football coach. How has that background prepared you for this job?
Well, I'm a teacher and a high school football coach. I'm the Dean of Wellness. I'm the president of the Wellbeing Coalition of Westfield, which is a nonprofit that serves our community. So I do a lot more than just coach football. But definitely in terms of leadership, I'm someone that can build team and bring people together. I can work with anybody. I'm the most public person in our entire city. So those are things we need right now. Someone that can build culture, someone that can work with people and ensure that not only that we get along, but that we can execute and do what's best for our city, protect the taxpayer. I think my job has certainly prepared me for that. I'm the only candidate that currently manages a staff. You know, we have a staff of 40 people directly under me, over 100 indirectly under me. I serve 800 families daily. And that's just the football role. So when you add on the things I do for the school and all the budgets and then all the things I do as a president of a nonprofit, I think all of those things have prepared me to really be ready to be a public servant, which is what this job is about.
Is Westfield pinning too much of its economic future on attracting youth sports?
Well, we certainly need to expand there. We can't have all of our eggs in one basket. I think we can use tourism as a great foundation for our economic development, and as a coach, I'm the one who is best suited to help us grow in that industry, but we need more than that. I do think we've tried to pursue advanced manufacturing. A lot of people would love to have high-tech jobs, the bio sector, various jobs that we could bring to Westfield. Look, if we can get great businesses that are community partners and help to defray some of the costs from our individual taxpayers, then that's a win-win for everybody. So the answer is yes, we need to expand our base. We can't have too many eggs in one basket when it comes to Grand Park and youth sports. But we don't want to just let in any business if it's not a good fit for Westfield.
What sets you apart from the other Republican candidates in this primary?
Well, I'm not really a politician. You know, I'm a community servant. I voted for term limits. I'm the only candidate that's actually won a contested election. I work with our community more than anybody in the whole city. My background is to serve, and I can bring people together more than anyone else. What we need now is what I provide the most. Leadership that, again, casts vision, builds team, gets people working together instead of against each other, communicates, and serves.
Take All Indiana Politics on the go with you. Download our podcast now. Part of the All Indiana Podcast Network and allindianapodcastnetwork.com.
Well, thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics this week. We'll be back here next Sunday morning at 9:30 for another special episode, this time on the Carmel mayor's race. You can also find our brand new All Indiana Politics podcast. It's part of the All Indiana Podcast Network over at wishtv.com. Have a great rest of your weekend.